Good evening, and welcome to the Green Bay Packers edition of the Thrilling Truth, brought to you by Gridiron Mall, a new interactive app that lets you call what you think the offense or defense will do in a live NFL game, and then see what others around the country pick as well. That's Gridiron Mall. Go to gridironmall.com for details. I am Evan Witallison, joined always by the wonderful Troy Kradovic, and the song you heard, the small sample, it's like 15 seconds long, that you heard coming into the show, I just want to let you all know, if you enjoyed it, and you're like, oh, this is pretty good, It's from a band called Bound for Severance. They're a band, I personally know one of the people in the band. He's my brother's brother-in-law, so my sister-in-law's brother, and great band. Encourage you all to go to Facebook.com, look for Bound for Severance, like their page, listen to their stuff. Now, their kind of music might not be for everybody. It's more of the punk, hard rock type stuff, but they do great stuff. I highly recommend it. They're great live as well. That is Bound for Severance. So, with that, things didn't go very well on Sunday night. As we all know, Packers got just, to quote Mike McCarthy, they got their asses kicked by the Denver Broncos, and everything the Packers did just wouldn't work. They couldn't get pressure on Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning shredded the Packers in the middle of the defense. Peyton Manning looked like he was 10 years younger again. Now, some of his throws did look like ducks, but they got where they needed to go, and the receivers made a play. And offensively, I haven't seen the Packers offense that inept in such a long time. I can't even tell you the last time I saw them that inept. I think it was when Aaron Rodgers was out with a broken collarbone, when Scott Tolzien was giving it the best that he could. I think that's the last time I saw the offense that inept. And Rodgers would be the first to tell you, he stunk it up on Sunday. He had commented a lot of throws he would love to get back if he could do it over again. And there are a lot of throws that Rodgers made in this game, Troy, before I throw it over to you. There are a lot of throws that Rodgers made in this game that he wasn't setting his feet. Rodgers,
I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
Oh, that's fine. I was just pausing for a minute. Rodgers, who is one of the most mechanically sound quarterbacks, Troy, that I have seen in quite some time, mechanics sucked. But before we go any further than that, I want to bring in my broadcast partner, my co-host, Troy. How are things going out there, Troy? And what are your quick thoughts on the Packers getting their ass kicked?
Yeah, well, that's a nice comment. That's a nice way to put it. Before I get started, I do want to say, due to certain things, my thoughts and prayers are with you, buddy. I know that you had recently had a good friend pass away, so I wanted to bring it up because I want to let you know that I'm here thinking about you. My thoughts and prayers are with you, and we gave a little tribute to you last night on the show, Kevin and I. So
thank you.
My thoughts and prayers are with you. Hang in there, buddy. I know things will be better for you, but we're talking Packers, so hopefully that'll bring you to a good place right now. But as far as the Packers go, Evan, getting their ass kicked was a nice compliment. They could not do anything. This is a team. If I ever say there's a good loss, I was a coach, and if I ever said there was a good loss, I think this might be a good loss for the Packers to realize that they have a lot of areas where they need to get better. Maybe that undefeated, record as they were going along, they were cruising along. I don't want to say they got complacent, but offensively this team has not played well the last few weeks. I did a Fantasy Freeway show earlier today. I told people to stay away from Aaron Rodgers right now until he gets his game back, because Aaron Rodgers did not play well in that Denver game, and I'm not blaming Aaron Rodgers 100%, Evan, because he'd get the ball and he was pressured early, and we talked about winning the point of attack. What Denver did is what the Green Bay defense had been doing to their opponents, and that's setting the tempo early. And it showed later in the game when Rodgers had time, he didn't think he had time because of the way Denver came out and terrorized that offensive line from the get-go. Honestly, I was trying to prep for this show and saying, how do I approach recapping that game? And it's almost like, you know what, let's have a do-over because not many things went well. Not many things went well at all in that game. But what I'm taking from this with Mike McCarthy and that coaching staff is a learning opportunity and bringing my former coaching experience into it. When you get beat that bad, it's almost like, you know what, here's the film. We're going to burn that in the fire pit. We just got a lot of things to get better at. And so let's go do it. There wasn't just one thing where they got to tweak. It was evident that, you know, they've got to get back to Green Bay Packer football. One is running the football. They have not run the football very effectively the last couple of weeks. I know Denver is a tough defense, but I didn't expect the offense to be that horrid against that defense. I thought they could score a touchdown or two, but they just did not play well. What are your additional thoughts?
Yeah, they didn't play well at all. They didn't execute. The game plan they had stunk. For whatever reason, the Packers want to continue to try to push the ball down the field, so they don't have the personnel for that. They don't have Jordy Nelson that can stretch the field over the top. They don't have that right now. Jeff Janis isn't the answer. He's not. Yeah, he's got speed, but obviously the coaches know something that we don't, because if the coaches had trust and believed in the power of Jeff Janis, then Jeff Janis would be out on the field a lot more. But he's not, so they obviously don't believe in Jeff Janis. So the Packers, what they need to do is kind of change up their offense a little bit. And I'm going to get into that on what they need to do to beat Carolina. That's where I'm going to go. That's what I'm going to talk about in the show before, we're going to start with the offense. We're going to talk about what do they need to do in order to get an offense against Carolina. Because what they're doing right now isn't working. Denver shut them down. They have no threat of vertical passing attack, but they keep trying these 10-yard, 15-yard routes when teams are ready for it. I've yet to see the Packers do crossing routes, yet to see them do slant routes, yet to really see them do screens. They did do one screen pass on Sunday, but the pressure got to Rodgers so quickly that he had to get the ball out much sooner than he wanted to, and was not able to give the offensive line a chance to line up and get their blocks going. He had to get the ball out in a hurry, otherwise he would have got sacked. But the Packers against Carolina, they're playing a similar front seven, very physical, very aggressive. They may not quite have the pass rush that Denver have off the edge, but they got two defensive tackles that are very tough. One is first name is Starr. I'm not going to butcher his last name, but just say his first name is Starr. Very big guy, 6'2", 320 pounds, 14th pick in the 2013 draft, and he is strong as an ox. Then the other tackle in the middle is pretty good too. But they are led by their linebacking core. Luke Kuechly is an amazing linebacker. He's coming back after missing a few games with the concussion, but he's back, great speed. His outside linebacker next to him, Thomas Davis, is a 14th pick in the 2005 draft, and he is just a gamer. He's overcome 3 torn ACLs in his right knee, but he's still bringing it each and every game. Really good. They also have rookie Shaq Thompson, who I was very high on coming into the draft. He's coming back from a knee sprain. Then they have off the bench Wisconsin native, Kimberly High School graduate, A.J. Klein. They have a really good linebacking core. A lot of speed there, a lot of physicality. The running game, Charlie, is going to be very difficult. Secondary, not as good. They're not as good as what you saw in Carolina. Charles Tillman still seems to ball out even at his age. But outside of that, their secondary, they aren't the greatest. The safeties aren't really good either. That's the one weakness in the Panthers defense, is the safety position. What the Packers really need to focus on is attacking the safeties a little bit. They got to attack those safeties. That's what they need to do. They also got to attack these corners a little bit. Be very careful of Charles Tillman because he always seems to find a way to punch the ball out. But they got to attack them a little bit. And one of the things they got to do is do some crossing routes right between the safeties and the linebackers. And for that to work, you got to get your running game going. It's going to be tough to run against Carolina, but if you can get your running game going, that means you can run play action. You know, you take the running back, get the linebackers to suck up a little bit, and get Randall Cobb right there between where the linebackers and the safeties are, right in that little gap there that's there, and have them go. One thing they're going to have to do is they're going to have to get off the line of scrimmage. That's one thing that the wide receivers haven't done a very good job of, is getting open, and they got to find a way to do it against Carolina. But as I said, Carolina's defense, the secondary is not as strong as the last two teams they've played, and they should be able to exploit them a little bit. If they can get a running game going, as I said, really good. But the Panthers do have Jared Allen now rushing the quarterback, and that should be interesting. But that defensive line is very stout. That linebacking core is pretty good, but they got to find a way to run the football. That's going to be key on offense. You need to get play action going, and then you have to try to get receiver separation from corners and safeties. But Rodgers should be able to find some holes in this defense throwing the football. If the offensive line can give Rodgers time, and they did a decent, believe it or not, they did a pretty good job against Denver giving Rodgers time. The problem was Denver was getting such a push up the middle, and if you watch the game, Gary Ellison brought this up, and he's right. The edge guys were rushing with an arm free, so if Rodgers tried to go around the outside, there's that outside arm to try to slot the ball away, to grab him, to get off the block and get him to the ground. And they weren't giving him anywhere to go up the middle. Carolina, they got to protect him well, and Rodgers has to get the ball. And that's another thing the offense has to do. They have to do drop backs. That's quick throw the ball. 1, 2, 3 throw. 1, 2, 3 throw. Get the ball out of his hands. 3-step drops, 5-step drops, shotgun, where you catch the ball and go. That pistol formation they were running a little bit last year, late in the year, do some of that. And that pistol, that could get Carolina off balance a little bit because it's a look the Packers really haven't done much this year. So that's going to be something new. Rodgers is pretty much hinting, hasn't come quite out and said it, but it's pretty much been hinting that they got to get more creative on offense. They're going to have to get more creative to beat Carolina. Does the offense still have the firepower to move the football against Carolina? Yes, I think they do. But they got to get more creative, and they have to protect Aaron Rodgers. So that's my thought on the offense. Quicker drop steps, shotgun, pistol, get the ball out, focus on getting the ball out, and get the ball into the hands of your skilled players like Randall Cobb, and you got to get the running game going to try to exploit the middle of the defense a little bit by sucking up the linebackers. So when you look at this Packer offense, Troy, what are your thoughts on what the Packers need to do in order to move the ball against this Carolina defense?
Well, it's going to be the same thing I said against Denver. I mean, you got pass rushers that are going to try to win the point of attack. This is a defense where good prep going against Denver to go against Carolina. I think the Denver defense a little bit better, but Carolina is nothing to turn your head from. They've got to. It's got to. The one thing that the Packer offense has to do, and not only offensive line and winning in the trenches, our receivers have to get separation. They have to find a way to get separation. Now, if they can't do it, then McCarthy and that coaching staff have to figure out ways to get people in motion, use Randall Cobb in the backfield, use a little Ty Montgomery in the backfield, get them out in space, get them the ball. because one big thing, and this has been a concern of ours and mine for a couple years now, is getting separation at the line. It's great when you can run a free route. You got Aaron Rodgers throwing you the ball. But if you can't get separation and that timing route's not going to work, and you can't shed a defensive back, you're going to have a horrid night. And I don't care if you're blocking. If the offensive line is winning and you still can't get into your route, you're not going to win. So I think the biggest thing that they've got to do Sunday is they've got to find a way to get these receivers into space and get the ball into space. Running, they've just got to man up offensively. I know Carolina, they're going to bring it up front in the front seven. They've got to figure out a way to establish this running game, and maybe you had mentioned some shotgun looks. Get Aaron Rodgers in the shotgun, Eddie Lacy flanked by him, do some draw play maybe with Starks. I think I'd feel more comfortable with Starks in that role. But kind of catch him off guard there. I'm not talking trick plays. I'm just saying don't get vanilla. But you got to establish the run. And maybe the offensive line, after getting embarrassed in Denver, went back to work this week and said this is never happening again. I'm not going to go back, Evan, and say our offensive line is terrible because I've said this before. I think they're one of the better ones in the NFL. And they had a bad game. They went up against a good defense. I think that's a proud group, and I think they're going to get back to work this week, and maybe they can go out and dominate the Carolina defense. But they have to establish the run. And then Aaron Rodgers. You got to keep those guys off Aaron Rodgers early. Because like I had talked about against Denver, later in the game when Rodgers did have time, it was like he felt pressure and he was dancing around. And like you had mentioned in the beginning of the show, mechanics were terrible. Mechanics were terrible, and I think a lot of that had to do mentally. Mentally, he was worried about getting knocked on his can. So my keys to the game aren't anything fancy, but my number one key is offensively, receivers getting separation and getting the ball to those receivers in open space and letting them run after the catch.
Yeah, definitely. I got to make sure they able to run after the catch, and as I said, get the ball in the playmaker's hand. And they didn't do a good job of that on Sunday. They got to do a better job this Sunday. Now we're going to take a quick break. We do have to thank an important sponsor before we move on. When we come back, we're going to talk Packer defense. The defense did not look good against Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos. But I'm going to tell you why they should fare much better against Carolina when we come back from break. We're also going to give our predictions as well. Thank you for listening. You've been listening to the Green Bay Packers edition of The Grueling Truth.
Hey, everybody, go check out a brand new football app called Gridiron Mo. It's an app where you get to call what you think the offense or defense should do during a live NFL game and see what all others around the country have also called. So make sure you check out Gridiron Mo app at www.gridironmo.com.
Welcome back to the Green Bay Packers edition of The Grueling Truth, brought to you by Gridiron Mo, a new interactive app that lets you call what you think the offense or defense will do in a live NFL game and then see what others around the country pick as well. That's Gridiron Mo. Go to gridironmo.com for more information. Going into the break, Troy and I were talking Packers offense a little bit and what the offense needs to do to better move the football this game. They didn't do a good job of it against Carolina. Rodgers had it's Denver, against Denver. They got to do a better job of it against Carolina. It's been, I'm thinking quicker than I can talk today. I don't know if you've ever had that problem, Troy, but I'm just thinking quicker than I can talk, if that makes any sense. So I think I have a lot on my mind, and I won't, I wouldn't for the listeners, talking about the personal stuff I have going on, because, we all have personal stuff going on. But anyways, the Packers need to do better much better against Carolina offensively moving the ball. The other place they need to do better is defensively and stopping Carolina's offense from moving the ball. It looks right now that the blueprint on how to beat the Packers defense is out. Crossing routes across the middle. That seems to be the blueprint. Let's do crossing routes across the middle and let the receivers run after the catch. That's what the Broncos did. That's what the Chargers did. And that's probably what the Panthers are going to try to do. But here's the thing. The Panthers, the Chargers had Keenan Allen. The Broncos had Demaryius Thomas. The Panthers have Greg Olsen. Great tight end. Really underrated tight end. I don't think he gets enough publicity that he should. I think he should get a lot more publicity in the NFL. But he doesn't for some reason. He's a great tight end. But he's all they really got. Ted Ginn Jr., Philly Brown, Jericho Tachi, Devin Francis, Kevin Norwood, and Bretton Burston is their wide receiving core. They don't really have a wide receiving core that's going to scare anybody. They don't have that key guy that's going to be really tough to cover. They don't have Keenan Allen. They don't have Demaryius Thompson. Really, the one guy the Packers need to slow down in the passing game is Greg Olsen. That's who they need to try to stop. Greg, you got to try to stop him. No receiver on Carolina, Troy, worries me. They don't. And then you look at the offensive line of Carolina. Michael Orr, remember from the blind side, he's a much better football player in the blind side than he is in the NFL. Andrew Norwell at left guard, Ryan Colley at center, Try Turner, and Mike Remmers is their depth chart. But, offensive line-wise, they're not very good. Their offensive line isn't very good. The center might miss another game. He has an ankle injury. Andrew Norwell has hamstring injury. Left early Monday night. He might be out. I know San Diego had an offensive line that was ravaged by injuries, but Carolina just San Diego just completely killed the Packers' defense. But they don't have. I love Cam Newton. I'm a big Cam Newton fan, but they don't have Phillip Rivers and they don't have Keenan Allen. They have to wait for Greg Olsen to get open in order to throw the ball because no one else can really throw the ball. The one area where the Packers could struggle is if Carolina decides to run some zone read and get Cam Newton running. Cam Newton's a big boy, 6'5", 250, almost 260, very big boy. And that's the one area of the offense that really worries me outside of Greg Olsen. Take the handoff to Jonathan Stewart, tuck the ball, and run. Because when Seattle started doing that, when the Packers played Seattle, they couldn't stop Russell Wilson. They couldn't stop him. And Cam Newton's much tougher to tackle than Russell Wilson because of his size. He's like a truck running you over when you try to tackle him. What the Packers need to do is find ways to contain Newton in the pocket. Force Newton to stand in the pocket and have to throw the ball. That means the edge rushers have to rush under control. So your Julius Peppers, who's a homecoming for him, your Julius Peppers, your Mike Neal, your Nick Perry, your Jaron Elliott, your Clay Matthews, whoever's rushing from the outside has to rush under control. Force Cam Newton to stay in the pocket and have to step up in the pocket. I have complete faith in B.J. Raji up that middle. I have complete faith in him against Carolina and their banged-up offensive line. Raji needs to contain that middle and not give Cam Newton any escape routes if he does step up in the pocket. They got to hit him. He's a big boy, but they got to hit him. Get pressure on him, get happy feet, and force him into mistakes. And Cam Newton can make mistakes. Like I said, I love Cam Newton, but he can make mistakes. So you don't want to send pressure undisciplined at him. You got to come off the edges under control. You got to force him to have to step up in the pocket, and you have to have people collapse the pocket from the front middle and not give him any escape lanes. If you give Cam Newton any escape lanes, he's going to find it, he's going to run, and he's going to get those first downs. So that's big. Jonathan Stewart, very tough back tackle. They can't let Jonathan Stewart get going. And then they have Forrest Whitaker, Fozzie Whitaker, not Forrest Whitaker. Forrest Whitaker is a really good actor. Fozzie Whitaker is an okay running back. But this offense is not Denver. This offense is not San Diego. The Packers should do a much better job slowing down this offense. They got to be physical at the line of scrimmage with the wide receivers. Don't let Greg Olsen run free across the middle. I know easier said than done. And they got to keep Cam Newton in the pocket. If you keep Cam Newton in the pocket, you're going to have a good day against them. So that's my thought on with the Packers defense, Troy. What is your thought before we give our predictions and let these great listeners go?
Well, not much more to add after what you put in there. I want to touch one key point, and that's stopping the zone read. I'm not worried about Cam Newton. Well, I shouldn't say that. I should worry about him because it's him to Greg Olsen, and the Packers at times have had problems covering tight ends. So that worries me just a little bit, but I'm more worried about that zone read like you were talking about because Cam Newton is a big, powerful guy. And honestly, if I was Carolina, I would run that from the get-go until the Packers can prove they can stop it. Because like you said, the Packers have had problems in the past stopping it. And, it doesn't have to look pretty to win games, but if I'm Carolina's coaching staff, I'm going to attack a weakness of a defense as a whole, and it's that zone read. And the Packers have had problems against it all the time. And so if I was them, like I said, I'd run it until they can prove they can stop it. What they have to do is they just have to play disciplined on the defensive side of the ball, something they didn't do against Denver. But like you said, those crossing routes, they've killed the Green Bay Packers. And if Carolina watches that game film, there are some weaknesses there. And the big key for this game is the underneath stuff is okay. And I've said this a million times. I'll take a 5-yard completion. Make sure you tackle. The key in this game, Evan, is going to be making sure that we secure tackles and don't give up big plays. I mean, against this Carolina team, offensively, they're not undefeated because they're a sparkling offense that can go and light up the scoreboard with 60 points. However, the Packer defense could make them look that way if they can't stop the zone read and if they can't tackle. So the key is to tackle and really try to get them off the field. But I'm okay with the underneath stuff. If he wants to run crossing routes 5-6 yards, great. But the key is they've got to secure tackles. They've got to be fundamentally sound in this game defensively, tackling, gap responsibility, disciplined. I know they're aggressive. They like to pursue, but they've got to be disciplined in this game and not leave any of those open opportunities for Cam Newton to roll off a 35-yard run, for Jonathan Stewart to go off, because offensively this is a Carolina Panther team that I think is still trying to find themselves, Evan. They don't have major weapons on this team, but again, the Green Bay Packers defense could make them look good if they don't play fundamentals. I know that sounds kind of vanilla, but really that's what has to happen. They don't have to get really fancy and exotic. They've just got to play disciplined defense on Sunday and take care of their individual responsibilities. At times, Evan, and I'll get your quick comment, I'll turn it back over to you. At times on Sunday, that defense looked confused. Players on that defense looked confused, like they didn't really know what was going on. And I don't know. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. And then I'll just add when you're done.
No, finish your thought.
Just when they're out there, it was like you had four guys You had 4 guys doing one thing, 3 guys doing another, 4 guys. You had, like, guys doing different things on the play, and maybe that was part of mass confusion that led to a horrid performance, and it's no excuse, and it's got to get fixed. But at times, it just looked like that defense was confused. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was just going to say it looked like quite a few times it was very confused, and it didn't help that Sam Shields left the game with shoulder injury. He's day-to-day, didn't practice Tuesday, didn't practice Wednesday, not sure about today. He's going to be needed in this game. That's really the only major injury they had in the game, and Shields avoided major injury. But yeah, they look very confused, and that is going to be important. But looking at the game, I'm going to sound like a homer here. I know I haven't picked against the Packers all year. Not going to start today. When I look at this game, you look in the past, when the Packers get punched in the mouth the way they did against Denver, they usually respond with a good outing. And that's going to be key. They have to start fast. They've got to start fast on offense. They've got to start fast on defense, whatever way it goes. If the Panthers get the ball first, the defense not necessarily has to force a 3-and-out, but they have to force a punt. And on offense, if they get the ball first, they got to go and score. When the Packers didn't score in the first quarter on Sunday, that was the first time in 22 games they didn't score in the first quarter. That broke a 22-game streak. They've got to start fast. That's going to be key. I feel the Packers will start fast. Cam Newton does not have anyone to really throw the football to, and I think the Packers' offense will bounce back. This might sound crazy going against the Carolina Panthers defense that's pretty stout, but I got the Packers winning this game 31-20. So I think the Packers win this game by 11. What are your quick thoughts before we let our listeners go?
Yeah, this is going to be one of those where it's a rebound game, and like you said, history is going to tell us that when they went back to Lambeau Field and went to work, this is a proud group of people that were embarrassed on Sunday night on a national stage, and usually they respond well. And so that's played into my thought process today about the game. I'm also going to go along the lines to say that Denver just literally outplayed the Green Bay Packers in the sense that, when things are going to go bad, things are going to go bad, and maybe all those things just went bad in one game. And I had said to start the show, from my coaching standpoint, if there's ever a loss that you can say, well, maybe it's a good loss, I think for Green Bay, they've got the undefeated. That's done. That's over. They now have a loss. They've been punched in the face, kicked in the gut, basically handed to them. Now they realize we've got to keep working. And I think for Carolina, that's a bad thing. If I was Carolina, I would have wished the Green Bay Packers would have won against Denver. I think Green Bay actually takes care of business, Evan. I had mentioned Carolina running the zone read until Green Bay can stop them. I think Green Bay can. We had mentioned this earlier in the year. This is a more athletic Green Bay defense. I think they're going to be able to game plan it, prepare for it. I think they're able to stop it. Not 100%. There's going to be plays that happen. But I think they're going to be able to contain it. And what that means is if that is contained, their receivers outside of Greg Olsen do not scare me. And like I said, if they want to go underneath and they can tackle, the Packers have proven to me they can do that. I think they put it all together after getting embarrassed last Sunday in Denver. I think they take care of business against Carolina, Evan, actually 31-14.
So we both have 31. I have 20. You have 14. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. We're kind of close again, as we normally are. But 31-14, 31-20 for me, 31-14 for Troy. Let's find out who's right. Hopefully one of us is right, and the Packers do put up 31 points, and they don't allow the Panthers to get more. But with that said, we want to thank you all for giving us a listen. If you're interested in hearing more from Troy and I, you can check us out on our main site, the redlightsportsnetwork.com. A lot of great blogs up there, a lot of great podcasts, archive podcasts that we've done recorded, and we're going to be coming again as well in a couple hours talking Green Bay Packers and Carolina all over again. So, again, go to the redlightsportsnetwork.com to check out the other stuff that we do. Once again, thank you for listening, and for Troy, to say, wish you all a good rest of your day, and hope you all have a great weekend and enjoy watching the Packers. Get